thoughts? Yes, sir.
Maybe fix things?
They can fix things. They certainly can. Some engineers are pretty handy. They can make some cool things. Someone asked, a long time ago, someone asked my son Chase. By the way, this is my son Chase, and I'm going to pick on him a little bit this morning. Someone asked him a while back what his dad was. And do you remember what he said? He said he's an inventor, which is kind of close. I'm an engineer. It's not completely the same thing, but maybe we can talk about the difference between the two. Does anybody know what I'm showing up here? Does that look familiar? The Edison light bulb. Very good. So this guy named Thomas Edison, he's an inventor. He's one of the most famous inventors in America. Many, many years ago, back when people used candles and lamps, he came up with this idea that you could use electricity and make light. And that was his light bulb right there. That was the first light bulb that's ever been made. Now, can you buy that light bulb at Target or Home Depot today? Would you want to? Probably not, right? I mean, it doesn't really work that good, actually. You know, it doesn't last very long, and it's kind of heavy, and it's big, and it doesn't really fit into your lamp. But, hey, Thomas Edison did a good job inventing the light bulb. He's the first one that said, you know what? This works. We can make this into something. So now look up. What do you see?
Lights.
Fluorescent lights. Do they look anything like that?
No.
It's in a straight line. This is what engineers do. Think about that light bulb above your head. So the engineer might not be the person that says, for the first time, I think we can make light out of electricity. That's the inventor. Thomas Edison kind of did that. What an engineer does is says, I can take that idea, Thomas Edison, I can take your idea and I can make it into something a little bit better and a little bit easier to use and a little bit nicer, and I can keep improving on it year over year over year until one day we look up and we see it doesn't look like that anymore, it looks like those up there. So first step is you could go to Home Depot and you could buy a light bulb, and it looks a little bit like this. It had an electric filament in it. That's that thing you see in the middle, and you screw it in the lamp and it glows and it gets kind of hot, right? If you touch it, it'll get really, really hot. And then after a while, engineers keep working on it, and somewhere an engineer says, you know what, maybe we could do it differently. Like these lights, they don't have an electric wire in them. They just have gas. And you just light up that gas. So somewhere, some engineer said, we can do a little bit better. We can make one out of gas. And now, notice this when you drive around Yankee. If you pull up to a stoplight, sometimes some of the stoplights, they kind of look polka-dotted if you look at them really carefully. Like it almost looks like there's lots of little tiny lights inside of the green light. Has anybody ever noticed that? Yeah? Have you seen it? Those are a different kind of light. Those are new, that an engineer decided, I can do it without gas even. I can use these little things called LEDs. And it's cheaper, and it lasts longer, and it's easier to light a whole building with stuff like that. So what engineers do is we take the ideas that we have and keep making it better and better and better. So almost everything that we interact with, maybe it's the computer, it's your iPad, it's your phone, all that stuff is stuff that engineers do for them. It could be a piece of equipment, it could be a car, it could be bridges, it could be buildings. That's what we do, we design that stuff. Okay, any questions about what an engineer does? I want to talk about what I do, is that okay? Because there's lots of different types of engineers in the world. There's some that build buildings, like the one you're in, engineers design this. Some that build bridges, roads, some that just make things like plastics and metals. Here, let me talk a little bit about what I do at John Deere. Hey, well, so maybe before I show this, is anybody here looking forward to the day they can drive a car? Huh? That's going to be fun, right? You get to go around town all by yourself. Are you nervous about learning how to drive? Now it's going to be easy, isn't it? You know what I thought when I was your age? I remember talking to my mom about this. I remember thinking, and I think I said this to my mom, Mom, probably by the time that I get my driver's license, cars will drive themselves. Right? And that was kind of a long time ago. Way back then, it seemed like that was probably going to happen. And you know what? My car this morning did not drive itself to work. I can't imagine why that is. Did you know people are working on that, though? Have you guys ever seen this? Have you ever seen this before? Sorta. This is a unique car. It comes out of this little company in California you might have heard of. It's by a company called Google. You guys know who that is? Yes. It's called the Google car. You see that little funny looking instrument at the top of it? You guys know what that's for? Can anybody guess? Yeah.
For the solar panel?
Close. It's there is a solar panel in it, but it's a camera. And what it does is it looks in front of the car for people and other cars. And can you imagine what that's for?
One of you guys go film Mr. Paul.
Close. Think a little bit farther down again. Exactly. This is an automatic driving car. So what this thing does with that camera is it can drive by itself. You can get in the car, you can turn the key on, and you just tell it where you want to go, and the car will take you there automatically. So finally, back when I was 9, I said, probably cars are going to drive themselves. I won't have to learn. Maybe when you guys get your driver's license, we'll all be driving around cars that drive themselves. Do you think that's possible? There's a lot of engineers at Google that are working trying to turn cars into cars that drive themselves. Did you know, though? I mean, does that seem crazy?
Yes.
It does?
Tractors can drive themselves.
What did you say?
Tractors can drive themselves.
Oh, you ruined it. That's great. You knew this already. You must be on a farm.
My grandpa teaches me eggs.
Excellent. Here's what you maybe didn't know. Did you know that we already have these cars? Did anybody know that? We already have these. We don't have to wait for Google. You know. And did you know there's tens of thousands of these just in Iowa? And you've probably seen them. In fact, you've probably seen them in the last week. You don't know what they look like? Just in case you see it again? You do. You've probably ridden them, haven't you? Let me show you what they look like, just so next time you see one, you know that we have self-driving cars. Now, they look a little different than the car in your garage, don't they? What is that? Okay, that's pretty good. I get a lot of John Deere tractors. You actually know the model number. That's pretty good. That's right. That's a John Deere, they call it an 8000 series tractor. It's a big, huge tractor. And would you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Actually, my dad actually seen a car. He was driving down the road when he saw a car beside him, and he looked in, there wasn't a driver, and there was a bunch of equipment in it.
Whoa.
And it didn't have a driver.
That's almost a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah, he took a picture of it.
So here's what this tractor can do. Did you know that this tractor can drive itself?
All the auto steer.
Auto steer, that's right. Completely drive itself. Do you know how it does that?
With a built-in computer that tells the auto steer to turn on when going down the field.
I should have you come up and give this presentation. You can talk about what engineers do. You see that little yellow bubble-looking thing at the very top of the tractor? Anybody notice that?
GPS.
Yeah, that's a GPS receiver. So John Deere has satellites way up in space that orbit the globe, and they beam down information to that little yellow bubble, and that tells the tractor exactly where it's at. And because it knows exactly where it's at, you can put it in your farm field, and you can hit a button, basically, and the tractor will drive itself. It'll drive to one end of the field. It can turn around by itself. It'll go back to the other end of the field. So if you think about what a farmer has to do, he has to plant a field, and he has to harvest it. You guys have probably seen tractors and combines, especially around Ankeny this time of year. He has to do a lot of stuff to take that tractor through the field during the year. And did you know that tractor can almost do everything completely automatically? It just does it all by itself. Now there's a person that sits in the cab just to make sure nothing goes wrong, but you know, if he's got all this stuff on the tractor, he doesn't really have to do anything. He can be on his phone, he can be trying to figure out where everybody else is at, and the tractor just works all by itself. So next time you talk about automatic driving cars or something, you hear someone talk about an automatic driving car, or if you see one, you get to say, hey, in Iowa, we already have these. In fact, we've had them for a long time. We see them every day. They're driving around automatically. Now, they're not on roads. They're in farm fields. This is what I do. And the reason I tell that story is because I mentioned there's lots of different types of engineers. I'm a computer engineer. So I make computers. That's what I do. And the group of people that I work with does. Now, a lot of times when we say computer, we all think of the same thing. It's this thing over here, right? This laptop. No? But it usually says, I want to buy a new computer, and you think about an iMac, or you think of a Sony or an HP laptop that you can have on your kitchen counter. But you know there's lots of different types of computers, right? It's not just those. So I work in specifically something called embedded systems. Now that's kind of a complicated term. Does anybody maybe think they know what that means? Go ahead.
Systems that are in the machine.
Perfect. Perfect answer. The way I think about it is, it's computers inside of things you don't normally think about being computers. So did anyone heat anything up in a microwave this morning? I know Chase did. Where'd you go? He had a waffle. So what do you have to do to heat it up in a microwave?
Just push buttons and
Well, now, I mean, mine has a hand crank. I sit there and crank on it by hand, and it heats it up, right? They all work that way, don't they? Yours doesn't work that way? What do you mean? You just push a button?
Yeah, you just push a button, start turning on water, and just press start.
How does it know to do that? I mean, you press a button and you just press start, and it cooks it for, what, 60 seconds, and it's all done?
Computer.
That's right, inside that microwave is a tiny little computer. Just like that computer sitting over there. Now it's smaller, and it's designed just to make that microwave go. What about your refrigerator? Do you have buttons on your refrigerator for like ice and water and stuff like that? You don't? Yeah. There's a little computer in there that's controlling that, so that when you push the water button, water comes out. These are the same, kind of the same deal. Your cars work this way. There's lots of computers inside cars that do things like make the air conditioner work. They make sure that when you hit the brake pedal, the car stops. They make sure that when you turn the lights, hit the switch for the lights actually turn on, or sometimes they turn on automatically when it's getting started. In something like that, there's lots and lots of computers. There's the computer you see at the top, that little yellow bubble, inside that. There's computers inside the cab that do things like, I mentioned, turn the air conditioner on, or make sure the operator's comfortable, or give him all the levers and tools to flip on lights, or switch gears. Then there's computers all through that tractor that makes it work completely automatically. So when a farmer wants to do a job, all he has to do is press a button and that job gets done completely automatically. What computer engineers do, especially me in embedded systems, we design all those computers. We make little boxes that fit in tractors, and maybe they don't look like that because they have to survive in a farm field or in a cold shed all winter, but they're pretty much just computers that we write software for and make them do automatic things to make tractors smarter, or if you work for Google, cars smarter, or if you work for a light bulb company to make light bulbs better, right? That's what engineers do, that's what I do at John Deere. So sometimes that's designing hardware, a lot of times it's writing software, a lot of times it's just thinking about and dreaming about what else could we do really, really cool and different to make our customers happy. Now, anybody have any questions? No? No questions at all?
You look at the Des Moines works?
Sometimes. Actually, my office is in Urbandale. All the people, so yeah, there's a lot of John Deere in Des Moines. There's the John Deere Des Moines Works here in Ankeny. Why do they call it the Des Moines Works? That doesn't make any sense.
Well, they're not Des Moines works because it was Ankeny.
Yeah. Used to be when that building was there really wasn't an Ankeny, so they called it the Des Moines Works. I work in Urbandale. We have an office where we make all the GPS stuff. Yeah. Well, the whole tractor's tons and tons and tons. You wouldn't want to run over by it. That's for
Like,
sure.
for example, my grandpa's done by bringing these tons of steel.
What about the computers? You mean?
Yeah.
It, yeah, sometimes it does. Like you can think about the things inside the computer kind of way just like you would see inside of a laptop. But can you imagine if we tried to take that laptop and we just put it on the outside of a tractor and we went and maybe like planted a field? What do you think that thing would look like when it's all done? Yeah, probably not much left. So the computers that we use, you'd see in a strong metal box that's protected. And because of that, it makes it kind of heavy. Now, it's not too heavy to lift up. It's maybe 5 or 10 pounds, but it's a lot heavier than, say, a laptop that you get. You guys have other questions?
What was your educational pathway?
Oh,
What got
good.
you interested in what you do?
Really good question. So I grew up in Iowa. I went to school in Bettendorf. Does anybody know where that's at? Bettendorf? No? It's in Iowa. It's a little town in Iowa, kind of a lot like Ankeny. When I grew up, I just, maybe this is a little bit similar to some of you, but I liked computers. So I used a computer called a Commodore 64. None of you are going to know what that is. But that's basically today's Mac. And I learned that you could do things like programming computers to do certain stuff. So I knew I wanted to do something with computers. And then when it came time for me to choose a college, I'll just tell you, there's only one right answer. There's one really good university, Iowa State Cyclone in Iowa. Right, everybody? Everybody agree? I see some Cyclone stuff. No? Not sure? Well, I went to Iowa State, and I majored in engineering, and that's what I say, I majored in computer engineering. And specifically in this thing called embedded systems. So if you want to be an engineer, and all of you can be, I'll tell you, there's a lot of math. And math is something I just like to do. I've always kind of liked to do it. I like solving problems in math.